This week on Kayak Bassin TV's Toad Trips, I'm fishing the Cumberland River in downtown Nashville, heading to Dale Hollow Lake, and I'm finishing up on Long Branch Lakes with my first double-digit bass of the year. So what we're doing here is basically trying to establish a pattern, and that pattern is going to come from dissecting the water, looking for activity. I checked the solar time, and we're 3 or 4 hours out from the primary feeding time, and you're not going to see a lot of activity. And so since I'm not seeing a lot of activity, I decided to switch it up and downsize and pinpoint and place the lure on wood and see if I can find these bass holding tight to cover. Because if they're not hitting an open water, you know, sometimes these smaller baits, these micro baits, have a tendency to do a little bit better. And then I'm just going to fish tight to wood until I start seeing some activity. The water temperature is 58. It's actually a degree colder up in here than it was at the mouth, and so the fish are not that active. Again, I'm not seeing bait scattered. I'm not seeing any, you know, surface activity. The birds are chirping, but the wading birds are up in the trees. They're not flying. So that means the fish are just not active right now. So that means you need to really fish tight to cover and figure out where the fish are orienting themselves, and then you can repeat that.
Here's a little one. Little guy hit the shaky head. It's been a while since we got a bite, but you know what? First one of the day. Yeah, hopefully it'll get better from here. Man, why don't you stop fishing so you can eat for a second?
No, I just slow down. Some people call it finesse fishing. I call it lunch. Fish. Fish. Pretty good one. Oh, look, 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 look. Hold on. Hold on. Oh, I was getting greedy. I hooked it. I had a fish come with it, so I figured I'd grab the other rod since the fishing's slow. Try to get a double hook up. I definitely hooked it up, but I lost it. So let me show you what I did here and get a shot of that. That fish ate that lizard. All right, so we didn't find the monster we were looking for on the river, but we had a great time and we caught a lot of fish. Now I'm headed to Dale Hollow Lake to hook up with the guys at BlueGrass YakMasters for their season opener and joint event with the Kayak Bass Fishing Series. Well, guys, today we're doing things a little bit different. I am here at the BlueGrass YakMasters kickoff tournament for the year, and we are partnered with them through KBF. So for this tow trip and for this tournament, instead of me just going back to the hotel and following the standings and doing all that stuff, I'm actually going to head out and fish to today. I'm gonna try to get on some of these Kentucky smallmouth. I've got a couple places that I want to try, and then I put a GPS tracking device on Jay Wallen's truck. He doesn't know it yet, but supposedly he can actually catch them here, and we're gonna follow him and see if we can't mooch a few smallmouth off of him, catch a Kentucky largemouth or 3, and then we'll be back here this afternoon for the weigh-in and the standings, and I'll bring you some fishing action between now and then. And this tow trip's just going to be a little bit different. We're going to fish it and go out and try to run into some people on the water, run into some people at the boat ramps, and hopefully some big fish are caught. Hopefully we raise some good money for Heroes on the Water through the Howe Big Bass Brawl. And yeah, this is our first ever kayak bass fishing trail event. So partnering with the BlueGrass YakMasters and see if we can't make this thing a regular deal. It's kind of like a circus. They just keep coming and coming. How many rednecks can you fit in a Dairy Queen? All right, guys, so this week we are on world famous smallmouth fishery Dale Hollow Lake. We're here in Albany, Kentucky. That's the other half, now not figuratively in size, but probably more like 3/4 when it comes to work. That's the other half of kayak bass fishing right there. That's Mr. Joe Hobbenridge. Joe, say hey to everybody.
Hey.
That's old man Joe, for as he's referred to affectionately, but he's only like 39. He just works so hard that he looks a little bit older than that. So anyway, here's the setup. We're down here at the Wolf River Road recreation area. All right, guys, so let me show you what I'm looking at right here. I've dropped the buoy, I've thrown the jig, and I've found tons of coontail and a lot of other scattered types of grass. That 3/4 ounce jig is so heavy that it's punching way down into the grass. So I'm assuming that the fish just can't see it. And maybe they're not active, but here's what I'm gonna do to switch it up. If you look at the graph right here, that bottom is as naked as a Miley Cyrus video. I came in like a rainbow, which means there's nothing there. And only 10-15 feet away to my buoy, the grass just pops up off the bottom and you see fish all over the top of it. So the importance of your electronics when it comes to determining fish holding cover and structure and you know, and features is super important. So like I said, I'm only a few feet from the buoy and I've got nothing, but every time I cast over there I find something. So I'm gonna drop down to a little bit lighter weight. I didn't cast quite far enough past it, but I'm gonna let it sink. And my buoy is on the back side of a big rock hump. It goes from 15 feet up to 10 feet up to a shelf that's between 9 and 7 feet and drops right off. So I went in all 4 directions and it drops off on every direction. So it's definitely a hump, which means there's fish sitting on top of that hump, either staging or they're waiting to move shallow, or they're waiting to, you know, to come up to the surface and start feeding, or whatever it is that they're going to do. But right now I'm trying to feed them right where they're at. May not get them to bite, but I'm going to pick this buoy apart because I've got that buoy sitting right on top of a pile of fish when nowhere else in here have I been able to find fish. So again, I'm gonna let the camera run. I'm gonna show you exactly how I break this down. I've paddled upwind of it, dropped a heavy jig on it, and gone through it, and I can feel the contour. I can feel that there's something hard down there. You know, probably a big boulder with grass growing all around it. And in this big featureless pocket and grass that's only about a foot off the bottom up near the bank, this is something significant. So again, take your time, methodically pick it apart. In 15 foot of water, you're gonna need to cast way past something with the wind blowing, free spool the line, let the bait get to the bottom, and then start working it. So that's what I'm doing. You know, as you can see right here, I'm getting a little bit closer. I'm about 5 feet away and you're starting to see something. So there's definitely some big wads of coontail down there. And if you look from 14 to 10 feet, that's 5 foot of coontail. That means those bass are down in that coontail, holed up, either staging there, they're feeding there, or they're just holding up, you know, waiting to move shallow as the water temperature comes up, or as the day progresses, or as they move into the feeding time for the day. Drifting right there, you see another boulder with a lot of fish over the top of it. And that hard return on the top lets me know that that's something hard. That's a quick contour change. If you sweep your nose around, a lot of times you can get a false reading like that, but my nose has been pointing in the same direction, so I know that's some kind of hard bottom return. So there's fish here. We just got to figure out how to get them to eat. So as you can see, as I come past my buoy here, there's my buoy. I'm starting to put these fish, pick these fish up, and as I wiggle my bait down there, I can feel it. So there's grass there, there's a big boulder, there's a different contour, there's a depth change, there's something there that's holding fish. And so now the trick is to figure out how to get them to eat. And I mean, it's a pile of fish. There's a ton of bait and bigger fish mixed into this little slough right here. So as I come past the buoy and it lights up on that side, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna cast upwind, rip off some line, let that bait fall to the bottom. While that bait's falling to the bottom, I'm gonna set the rod down and kind of hold myself in position with the paddle so that I'm not dragging the bait through the water column. While I'm sitting here, I'm gonna convince Joe to come over here and jig or yo-yo a lipless crank or slow roll a spinnerbait or something and see if we can't tag team and figure these fish out. But they're definitely down there. There's definitely something holding fish. There's a lot of grass and there's way more here. If you look, the depth is 12 foot. We got grass and bait all the way up to 6. And then if you go just past the buoy a few feet, it drops off to 15. And if you go that way about 5 feet, it gets up to 7, 8, and 9. So this is a real good spot to spend some time trying to pick apart and figure out where the fish are. So I found the fish at Wolf Creek in that cove, but I just couldn't get them to bite. So now what I'm doing is looking for some protected creeks, and I found several on the map that I'm gonna go check out to see if I can find fish staging, ready to move up and spawn. Fish on. That's a good one. Good fish. Right there in the tree. Oh yeah. Oh, Ken. It's a good fish. Come here, buddy. Yeah. She choked that spinnerbait. That's looked like a spot when it first came to the surface. That's a largemouth. Got it on the trailer hook, laying right there in the tree on the back of the cove. Or, I mean, on the back of the point. And she smashed that gold sexy shad with the silver kicker, 1/2 ounce. Got her up with the trailer hook, laying in the tree. Okay, so they don't call one fish a pattern. They definitely don't call two fish a pattern. One fish is luck, two fish is a coincidence. When you catch a third fish, it's a pattern. So right now I've got the same scenario setting up right here. I've got a blunt point, got a little shelf out in front of it, got the wind coming in on this bank, and I got the sun. And there's tons of shad moving into these creeks. And what they're doing is they're pulling up on these flats before they move up into the creeks. And so I'm fan casting this point. I'm in 11 foot of water right here where I'm sitting, but it's probably 4 foot to my right. And I got a nice shallow flat right out in front of me. It's got some big limestone humps on it, and it's got some boulders and some scattered wood. So I'm expecting to catch a smallmouth on this side out here in a little bit more aggressive water with the wind blowing and more open. And then when I get on the other side in the lee where it's protected, I got some cover and laydowns on that more vertical wall. I'm expecting to catch a largemouth and spot on that side. I turned the camera off just about the time I decided I was going to make a spinnerbait cast off of this point right here. Had a nice little chunk of smallmouth, smash it. So what I did is I threw the bait out, let it get right down to the bottom, and just started slow rolling and ticking it along. And that fat dude right there just came up and thumped the spinnerbait. So feels good when you keep working, you keep digging, you keep figuring, and then you find the fish. So one of the things that happens in these man-made, dammed up reservoirs is, if you look around what's going on around you, that's pretty much giving you a visual of what's going on below the surface. And so because this taper is what it is, it's going to continue out into the water. So you've got a really nice gradual taper, but you've got a creek arm or a feeder here that carries some depth, some really good depth way back in there. Out in the middle it was 28 feet, and right here along the bank I'm sitting in 5 or 6 feet. There's a nice little wedding cake shelf just like you see up over my shoulder right there, and so those bass will tuck back in on one of those wedding cakes and wait for an easy meal to come by. And so what I'm doing right now is kind of running parallel, dropping that bait down to that 4 to 5 foot range and running along that groove. That groove is kind of like what you see here with the rocks. That same thing happens again, every 6 to 10 feet, and those bass can tuck back up into there. So hoping to find some laid up in there. If not, there's some cover coming up that I think will hold bass. Lots of treetops and laydowns, and the conditions are perfect for those fish to be staging on that cover. All right, so I didn't find the monster I was looking for on Del Hollow, but I did find 2 great fish, and I was able to figure out exactly where the fish were staging, and I'll be back in 2 weeks to find those big girls when they move up shallow. So now we're heading over to Long Branch Lakes to hook up my buddy Frank Sullivan and the Dirty Kitchen Band for some big old toads at Long Branch Lakes. All right, guys, so I am here back at one of my favorite places to fish in the country, Spencer, Tennessee, at Highland Rim Retreats. We're going to try to catch us a big old spring bass, and by we I mean Frank Sullivan and Dirty Kitchen. So if you guys don't know who Frank Sullivan and the Dirty Kitchen is, you got to look them up. Just Google Frank Sullivan and Dirty Kitchen, and actually I'm going to try to twist their arm to get some video content, and we'll throw it right into the video, like right here. We'll just stop now.
Ticket for an airplane. I ain't got time for no fast train. Lonely days are gone. I'm going home. My baby wrote me a letter.
So I'm here with Frank and Mike and Chris, and we're gonna go do some bass fishing, Tennessee.
Working for Starkist today.
So I'm gonna spin this thing around, let you guys meet the band.
Yo.
So introduce yourself, tell the folks who you are and
Howdy.
what you do.
I am Chris Luquette, and I play guitar with Frank and Dirty Kitchen, and getting the lay of the land here in Spencer. It's
Sweet.
great.
Where are you from?
Great town. I'm from Seattle, Washington.
Seattle, Washington.
Yep.
All the way in Tennessee.
I know it. Here we are.
How about yourself?
Howdy,
there?
Mike Munford here. How's it going?
Mike, what do you do, Mike?
Playing banjo, the 5-string banjo, keeping the 5 alive with Frank
That
Sullivan.
is awesome. Hold on a second. Is that the guy from Back to the Future? And all right, now the namesake, Frank Sullivan and
Yes.
Dirty Kitchen.
Yeah.
So was there a Dirty Kitchen before Frank Sullivan, and did you guys hook up, or was that, what's the story behind the name?
Well, it's a tune actually that I
Oh.
wrote, and it's the first tune that I ever recorded on my first solo project, and it pays tribute to my love of food and being in the kitchen, for sure.
We share that love.
Yay. Yeah, you don't get to be this
Yeah.
size without knowing your way around the kitchen, you know.
People always ask me that. Do you like to eat? And I go, no, I got fat from holding my breath. So anyway, we're going to head out on the lake. Let me spin around so y'all can see that. That's it right there. That's Long Lake up here at Long Branch Lakes. We are guests of Highland Rim Retreats today. We're going to go out here and try to catch us a big old bass. Actually, hold on a second. I got one more person to introduce. Hold on. And that's Miss Christy Hammond right over there.
Hello.
Rocking the LSU hat just because that's the one that Austin gave her
Right.
to come up here and go. Christy, have you ever been kayak fishing?
I have not.
So this is going to be popping her kayak fishing cherry. Have
Yes.
any of you guys been kayak fishing?
I've been fishing and I've been kayaking, but not kayak
So
fishing.
no, he has not been. Have you been kayak fishing?
No.
No?
Kayak
Definitely not.
bowling.
No, but no kayak fishing.
Yeah.
Bowling, yeah.
Yep. I saw it. No, I didn't. No.
So this is like a quadruple kayak cherry popping deal we're doing here. Anyway, we're gonna head out there and try to catch a fish, and hopefully nobody goes swimming. I'm here by myself on the mountain with 4 people who've never been kayak fishing before, so hopefully nobody hooks themselves. Actually, I kind of hope somebody hooks himself. It gives me the opportunity to do the
Okay.
hook removal video. And we're gonna head out and try to catch a big old bass. Here we go. Oh, dude, this is a monster. Holy crap. I have got a giant on. Oh my gosh. Holy crap. This is a stud. Look at that. But I just caught a freaking giant. That is a stud right there. I am up here fishing with Mr. Frank Sullivan and the Dirty Kitchen band out of Alexandria, Virginia. And it's a beautiful spring day. It is March, late March. Holly, I can't even think of the date right now. God, look at that. Whew. That is a stud. That is a Long Branch Lakes, Spencer, Tennessee, Highland Rim Retreats giant. All right, so let's take a look at how I broke down the fishery to find this big girl and put her in the boat. So I started off checking the non-spawning areas in the northwest corner of the lake. I didn't find any small fish move shallow, and there definitely weren't any big girls on the beds yet. So from there, I went and did a spot check on all my creek mouths. Creek mouths are great staging areas, and I started as far back as I could and worked my way up to the one that I thought was really gonna hold big fish, so that I would be there at the exact time that the feeding time was at its peak, and I knew that the fish would be a little bit more aggressive. So after working my way around the body of the water, I staged my kayak off of this creek mouth on a secondary point where there was some wood under the water in 4 to 6 feet. From there, I started fan casting down the bank. I started shallow and worked my way out incrementally, and once I made that cast to the deeper end of the wood and slow rolled this spinnerbait across that treetop, pow! It was fish on, and from there, I was able to catch a big fish. Now let me show you what spinnerbait I was using and why in this big bass breakdown. I was using a Strike King 1/2 ounce. I had a darker back with a little gray in it, some chartreuse and white. I was using a gold blade and a silver kicker. Now, the trailer hook is important, but the most important characteristic of this bait and how I put the fish in the boat on this episode was the combination of the gold and the silver. And the reason for that is the shad were moving up the creek. I had clear skies, no wind, and a definite stain to the water. With that stain to the water, I always like to choose gold. But one little modification that I did that I think helped me catch the fish is I always flatten my blades out a little bit in early spring. Now, with a willow leaf blade, you can fish it and it's going to have a tight rotation, and it's going to make that kicker blade shimmy back and forth. If you take some of the concave out and flatten it out a little bit, it's going to open that arc up, which is going to give that bait more vibration, more thump, more flash, and it's going to not only be a visual attractant to a fish, but it's also going to create a little bit more vibration, and it's going to make that fish a little more receptive to the thump and vibration that the bait puts off. So primarily a spinnerbait is a visual bait. Secondary effect is the vibration. Most people downsize or change to a Indiana or a Colorado blade to get that thump, but I like a lot of flash to draw them in. And one of the tricks that I've learned is to take that concave out to make that arc a little wider, gives it a little more thump, it gives it a little more scattered light and vibration, and it tends to put more fish in the boat for me. So I'm gonna do a full spinnerbait breakdown coming up soon, and I'll link it up in the description box. But for now, that's the big bass breakdown on how I put my first double-digit bass of 2016 in the boat. Nothing like seeing a big fish like that swim away healthy and strong with a big powerful kick of the tail to go make more big old bass like her. Well guys, I hope you liked this toad trip. So we're trying to do a better job of getting more in depth and breaking down how we're catching big fish and where we're catching all of our fish. So give the video a thumbs up if you like it. Comment below if there's things that you'd like me to get a little bit more in depth on. And as always, please subscribe to Kayak Bassin TV.